शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये. Om. Dear friends, we were seeing the 14th shloka of the second chapter of Gita, that is Sankhya Yoga. We were seeing the 14th shloka, that is Krishna is saying, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agamapayino anityaha tan stitikshasva bharata. So a principle called titiksha is being told here. And titiksha is a very important virtue for a seeker. In fact, these 2-3 shlokas, they are called Titikshopanishad. So that means in this Bhagavad Gita, one shloka is treated as an Upanishad, 2 shlokas are treated as an Upanishad. So a small group of shlokas, sometimes they are treated as Upanishad. So this Titikshopanishad, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya, etc., these 2-3 shlokas, Bhiras Satrana Muhyati, Yam Hina Vyatayantiyate, it is called as Titikshopanishad. That is, Titiksha is a virtue. I was telling you, titiksha means endurance. Endurance means you have to, it is not some sort of forcible endurance. Suppose I sit in the hot sun and then forcibly I endure it. Not like that. Just philosophically understanding its nature. Understanding its nature and then just bear with it. Just don't think about it. Just be a witness to that. In fact, being a witness to that is the right expression. I am not, whatever we call it as Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha, they are only for the body-mind complex. And my real self is totally different. When there is some sort of interaction with somebody, it is only at the level of the mind. And body-mind complex is something which is interacting with the entire external environment. And my real self is totally different. So that is the philosophical understanding, or rather titiksha, which is expected in this shloka. And Indriyas again, I have to tell you one more thing. What are these Indriyas, or these 5 sense organs? We know that we have got the sense of sight, sense of touch, etc., 5 sense organs. And in the universe, the entire universe, if we see broadly, the entire universe is broadly divided into 5 elements. What is called Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akashaha. Prithvi, that is earth, as we see it. Earth means solid matter, let us say. Prithvi, Apaha, fluid, that is water. Tejaha, light and heat, that is both, Teja means both light and heat, Tejaha. Vayu is air. Akasha means space, where even that air is not there. So, Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akashaha, the whole universe, if we see, the whole universe is divided, or it can be seen in these 5 terms, in terms of these 5 things. And if we see our own sense organs, one sense organ is corresponding to only one thing in the universe. Suppose my sense of sight, it is only responding to what is called tejas or light, which is there in the universe. So if there is light, my skin cannot see, my nose cannot see, only I can see. So similarly, if I have to smell, only my nose can smell, my eye does not smell, my skin does not smell. Or if it is a sense of touch, only my skin has the sense of touch, my eye doesn't have the sense of touch, my nose doesn't have the sense of touch. So like that, every indriya is corresponding to one of these 5 elements, what we call Panchamaha Bhuta. All these Bhuta, Panchabhuta. So these 5 elements. So what Vedanta says is, naturally there is a correlation between these things. These sense organs, which are there in this body, not only human body, which are there in all the animal bodies. We don't know, animals may be having more senses, we do not know, or less senses, we do not know. And this, or in some animals, it may be more acute, the same sense, it may be more acute. For example, we see bats, etc., we call it extrasensory perception, ESP as we call it. So these senses, they are related to or corresponding to the 5 elements. So that is the reason why Vedanta says that the eye is something which is derived from Tejas. What we call Tejas in the universe, the eye is derived from that. The sense of smell is derived from what we call Prithvi. The sense of touch is something which is derived from air. So what we see in this microcosm, the human body, which is the body-mind complex, which is a microcosm, is something which is actually derived from the macrocosm. And this microcosm is not different from that macrocosm. So that is the reason why Vedanta also says Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Pinda means this vyashti or individual self. Individual self, not only human body, starting from an ant. So yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Whatever is in the ant is a derivative from the universe. A dog is a derivative from the universe. The human being is a derivative from the universe. A tree is a derivative from the universe. Tree or an apple is derived from the universe. And a mango tree is also a derivative from the five elements. So everything on earth we see, there is basically a modified form of these five elements. Modified form of this Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. So that is what is the meaning of this Matra, Sparsha. Again, they are totally changing. Anitya. Anitya means sometimes the same thing gives you happiness and sometimes the same thing gives you unhappiness also. So like that, they are all anityaha. Tan stitikshasva. Titikshasva means not forcible endurance, but by philosophical understanding. So that is what is supposed to be a good virtue. And I was also telling you yesterday that titiksha is something which is politically incompatible now. Of course, I am telling it in a very lighter vein. For a seeker, of course, anyway, he will not follow the political leaders. But what the political leaders are now saying is, what they are doing, or rather the damage which they are doing is that the society, suppose it is a very, very contented society. But these people, they go and create some sort of discontentment. They create some discontentment. They say, okay, you are not happy. Everybody, the basic purpose is to say, oh, you are not happy, you have to agitate. So they orchestrate some grievances. They make people unhappy. So that is the agenda. And if you take endurance, if you say endurance or titiksha, etc., they may even call it a bourgeoisie virtue. We are familiar with the word bourgeoisie. So they will say bourgeoisie virtue. So that danger is there. So that is an unfortunate thing. We cannot help it. But for a spiritual seeker, he will not be after them. He will not be listening to them. Then we come to the next shloka. That is 15th shloka. Yam hinav yathayantyete purusham purusharshapha samadukha sukham dhiram somrutattvaya kalpate. Yam hinav yathayanti yete purusham purusharshapha. Arjuna, Krishna is calling Arjuna Purusharshapha. Purusheshu Rushabha. Rushabha means a bull. Purusharshapha means, oh, bull among men. That is a Shrestha Vachaka. Purushabha, Kavi Rushabha, Raja Rushabha. That is bull among men. That is a Shrestha Vachaka. That is, oh, very fair. You are a famous warrior. And he says, Yam hinav yathayantyete. All these things, all these dualities as we call. Dualities means Shita, Ushna, a set of dualities. Similarly, Sukha, Dukkha, Raga, Dvesha. So these are all various dualities. A person is supposed to rise above these dualities if he is on the path of spirituality. Spirituality, again, some people, they don't want to use. Spirituality, again, it is a rather vague term. In fact, even my gurus, they do not like to use this word spirituality, but somehow I used that word. The path of knowledge is the right word. The path of knowledge is the right word. Spirituality is again very loosely used. So, path of knowledge, for a person who is on the path of knowledge, he is not affected by these dualities. He is supposed to rise above these dualities. And he is a person who is sama dukkha sukham dhiram. Sama dukkha sukha. That is, whether it is sukha or dukkha, he is having that evenness of mind to understand what it is. He is having that evenness of mind, and he is also dhira. We saw this word yesterday also. Dhira is dhi. Dhi means buddhi. Dhiyam rati or grunhati. One who controls his mind, he is called a dhira, and not somebody who fights with half a dozen people or 1 dozen people. Dhiram saha amrutatvaya kalpate. Amrutatvaya kalpate means he becomes fit for that amrutatvam. He becomes fit for that immortality. Amrutatvam. We know that amruta is there. What is that amruta? Amruta is traditionally, the traditional meaning of amruta is that nectar which is supposed to be in heaven, with Devendra. Devendra is a person who is the custodian of that amruta. And that amruta, if you want, once there is a story also. There is a story that Garuda, we know, Garuda is that very famous bird who is the vehicle for Vishnu. And very, very powerful and more powerful than Indra. Once it so happens that on some occasion Garuda has to get that amruta in order to liberate his mother, because his mother was almost like a servant to somebody else. So there was a condition that if you get that amrutam, we will release her from bondage. So on that count, he goes and then he fights with Devendra and then gets that Amrita, etc., etc. So Devendra is the custodian for that Amrita. So the traditional meaning or the Puranic meaning, the Purana meaning is totally different from Vedanta meaning. That is what we have to know. What we see in Purana is totally different from what we see in Vedanta. Sometimes what we see in Vedanta is told as a sort of story in Purana. So Purana, it has to be taken as a lower degree of reality. What Vedanta tells or Upanishad or Geeta says, that has to be placed at a higher level. And what a Purana says, it has to be taken as a symbolic or allegorical story. So Amrita means, we know what does Amritam give. Amritam is supposed to give us immortality. And immortality, in what is our meaning, normal, common man's meaning of immortality is, okay, I am right now here. The normal life cycle is maybe about lifetime is maybe about 100 years maximum. And immortality means I will live for 1,000 years or 10,000 years and it will go on and on and on till I get bored. So that is immortality. So that is not the meaning of immortality here. Amrutatvam does not mean a body, a person who is there in that body, living and living and living. It is not like, that's not the thing. Amrutatva means that awareness. Amrutatva refers to the realization or knowledge. Amrutatva refers to that knowledge. Knowledge leads to Amrutatva. What is that knowledge? Knowledge that Atma is eternal. This body is going away. This body may go away, but Atma is eternal. But that realization, once a person is very, very firm in that realization, when he is very, very clearly aware of that particular fact, then that is what is called Amrutatva, and not that physical body which is going to stay for a long, long number of years. So, not that eternal life with the body. There are also some stories on that count. In fact, in Greek mythology also there is some story where one woman wants that eternal life. And that woman, she is okay, God's grant her that eternal life. Her name is some Sibyl or some such name. We get that name in one of the poems of T.S. Eliot. In English literature, there is a poet, very famous poet, T.S. Eliot. In his poem called Wasteland, we come across this story. We come across the reference to this woman. Over a period of time, she shrinks and shrinks and shrinks as age grows and goes and goes. A human body, naturally, when we grow old, we shrink and shrink and shrink. So she goes on shrinking till he becomes of the size of a bird. And she is kept in a small niche in the wall. And she is longing to die, but she doesn't die because she has been granted immortality. So, if immortality is really granted in the physical sense, that a person is going to live and live and live, after some time we are going to get bored. So anyway, that is not the type of immortality we are talking here. Immortality means that awareness, the knowledge that Atma is something which is eternal, it is not going to die. And now we come to the next shloka, which is a very, very, very important shloka. Very important shloka. Again, it is talking about what is the nature of reality. There is an important concept called reality. So this, I will read the shloka first. The shloka says, Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayorapi drushtvantastvanayostattvadarshibhihi. So the literal meaning of this shloka is na asataha vidyate bhavaha. Na asataha. Asat means that which does not exist, that which is unreal. What is real and what is unreal? That is what is the discussion here. So that which is unreal, it can never come into existence. And na abhavaha vidyate sataha. And for something which is real, it is never going out of existence. It is never going to be, it is non-existent. Whatever is real, it is always existing. Whatever is unreal, it can never come into existence. So that is the first line. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. An unreal thing cannot come into existence, and a real thing cannot go out of existence. Then ubhayorapi drushtoantaha. And for these two things, for what is asat and what is sat, that is what is unreal and what is real, the wise people know. They know the entire meaning of this. Second meaning, of course, second line there is not much. Ubhayorapi drushtoantaha. The wise people, they very, very decisively know. Antaha means nirnayaha, anayoha, tattvadarshibhi. The tattvadarshi means those who have seen the reality, those who have realized. So they know what is this asat and what is asat. For example, Shankaracharya has written a very huge commentary on this. What is this sat and what is asat, etc., etc. That is because Krishna is using certain words which are rather technical words, or paribhashika, what we call. It is like a terminology. When you take a book of physics or some higher physics or mathematics, some concept is there. And if you want to understand that concept, a lot of explanation is needed. So similarly, the words like sat and asat, again, they are technical words which are used in Vedanta or in Shastra. Let us say Shastra. In the Shastra, sat and asat are very technical terms. And what is this sat? Sat means something which is real. And what is meant by real? So I am sitting here. Is it real or not? From a normal point of view, it is real. From a normal point of view, I am somebody who is sitting here. From that normal point of view, at a very, very transactional or empirical or social point of view, it is real. But from the point of Shastra, reality is something different. Reality does not mean something which is appearing at a particular point of time. It is not real. I told you earlier, yesterday or day before, I told about 3 types of limitations. That is Desha, Kala, Vastu Paricheda. Desha Paricheda means I am in this particular place, I am not in some other place. That is, I am limited by being in a place. Kala Paricheda means I am limited by time. That is, I was not in 19th century and I will not be there in 22nd century. That is Kala Paricheda, I am limited by time. And I am also limited by being a Vastu, by being an object, by being a person. That is, I am X, not Y or Z or A, B, C, etc., etc. That is, I am limited, I am having all these 3 limitations. Everything in the universe is having these 3 limitations. And Sat is something which is not having any of these limitations. Sat is something which is always existed, which has always existed, and it is never going to be non-existent. That means, suppose I see some existence, some part or something, let us say some phone here I see. And this vessel or some part or this book, say, let us say, it did not exist a few years ago, and after a few years gets merged in dust. That is what we call ecological, degradable, biodegradable, let us say. So it is all biodegradable. There may be certain things which are not so easily biodegradable, but they also have a lifetime. They can also burn and then they degrade. So everything is there for some time and it is disappearing after some time, something else. So Sat is something which is there always. So tentatively, if we understand it as this much, I think it should be enough. Sat is something. In fact, there is another technical term for that. Shastra uses a word called that which is not negated at any point of time. That is Trikala Abadhyam. Trikala Abadhyam is that whose reality is not negated at any point of time, whether it is past, present or future. So that is what is called Sat. And Trikala Abadhyam. And what is that Trikala Abadhyam? There should be something. For example, I am existing. I explained to you that I am existing. My existence is very, very limited. Similarly, the existence of all of us, everybody who is sitting here, all the existence of all the people is limited. Existence of the very universe also is limited. So when this is so, and we have to conceive or we have to think of some existence which is the substratum or which is the support for all these things. Suppose I am now existing and I go out of existence, I disappear after some time, and something else exists and that also disappears. Something else comes, something exists for some time and disappears. So that means there is some principle called existence. There is some principle called existence, and in that existence something is manifesting, and that manifested thing is having some name and form. So that manifested thing is having some name and form. But there is that existence without a name and form or anything. That existence, that principle called reality, which is there always, which is not having a name and form, but the reality is something which is forming the foundation or the basis. Shastra calls it the substratum adhishtanam. It says adhishtanam is a substratum for all the things which are manifesting. So this is what is called Sat. In fact, how this Sat is related to, in fact, the definition of God actually, there is a definition that is what is called Satyam Jnanam Anantam. I will also briefly explain it tomorrow. If I explain that, then you will see what is that Jnanam and how that Jnanam is infinite and how this Sat also is related to that. I will explain tomorrow. It is slightly heavy, but we have to understand that. Harihi Om Tat Sat.